Alright, hello and welcome back to Season 2 of my Feed the Beast Let's Play. As you can see, things are a little bit different. I restarted my world because of the beta ending and the new packs coming out. So I'm here in my new world and I've set up my shop in this biome called Mountain Ridge, and it was next to a redwood forest. And there's a village there, and an autumn woods, and snow biome, so it's kind of like all my favorite biomes together. Those villagers have died off. I think zombies got them. But anyway, I've been doing some work, and I didn't record much of this up until now because, I mean, it was mostly just setting back up again after I had restarted, so everything is kind of boring to do that all over again, so I thought I would just get everything back up to speed and then come back and show you guys what I did. So I'm here in my not finished base with fairly sparse amount of machines, and that's because GregTech hard mode is on, which means that stuff like solar panels take plates, which are made in a blast furnace, which takes a ton of energy, which I haven't built yet, so it's probably going to be the next episode. But everything is more expensive in terms of industrial craft. So mainly getting energy is expensive. So here's for right now, I have my generator, my thermal generator, and that usually has coal coke. So I've been powering all my stuff, and as you can see, I just have tier 1 machines. I've been powering all my tier 1 stuff with just that up until now, because everything else was pretty hard to get, just bootstrapping, so it's kind of good to have that, or necessary to have at least a generator and some coal coke to get me going. But what I've been working on, and I've actually spent a lot of time on this, is a fully renewable and no intervention required biofuel system. So it consists of, there's 3 main parts. There's the peat farm, the tree farm, and then the fermenting slash distilling section here. And I'll start with the tree farm because that's kind of, well, first the theory behind it is basically we need saplings. We need saplings to ferment, and when we ferment them, we get biomass, this green stuff, and what we actually burn to make electricity is biofuel, the orange stuff. So to get from saplings to biomass to biofuel, first we need saplings. So there's the tree farm making the saplings. Then we ferment them down here in this fermenter, which takes saplings and some sort of composty type thing. So mulch works, compost works. I'm using mulch, and I'll explain why in a minute. But that generates the biomass, and you give it water. You can also give it apple juice and stuff, but I couldn't find a way to make enough of that fast enough to satisfy this, so I'm using water. And that's how you get the biomass from saplings. However, if we were just to make saplings, or just to make this tree farm, we need to sustain it somehow, and we need to give it humus. And I don't want to sit there and craft humus all the time, so to make humus, you need compost and dirt. Now, this is bad because, first of all, we have to come up with dirt and compost. We can come up with compost like this. I'll get to that in a minute. Don't want to get ahead of myself here because there's a lot of steps to this, but basically we needed humus. So I said, well, how do we get humus from what the tree farm makes? And the tree farm basically has an output, saplings, apples, sand, because every time a tree finishes, you have sand. And so we have sand, and we need dirt. So conveniently, the peat bog needs sand, because what it does is it takes basically bog earth and turns it into peat. And bog earth is comprised of sand and dirt and water. So we take our sand from our tree farm, give it to our peat bog. Peat bog turns it into, bog earth, plants it, gets the peat, and guess what happens when the peat's done? You get dirt back. So we basically convert our sand into dirt, essentially, is what that does. Once it's all said and done, we get dirt back. And that dirt, comes back here, and we can use that to auto-craft first of all, our compost, and second of all, first of all, our compost, second of all, our humus. But fourth thing, or third thing, or whatever thing it is, we need ash to make our compost. Now, conveniently, again, when you burn peat in a peat-fired engine, you end up with ash. So if we have enough of those going to sustain the requirements of the tree farm, we can generate ash from the peat this thing generates, and then all our outputs are perfect because we have sand coming out, coming back into our peat bog. With input is sand, output is peat, dirt, and ash, which is perfect. And all that extra peat I'm using over here to power all these machines. So anyway, that's basically the big overview. Is we needed saplings, and to sustain that we needed the peat bog, which complements it nicely. And the saplings basically go in here, and there goes some biomass right now into that tank. These are the new Railcraft tanks, and they hold a whole bunch based on how big you make them. Anyway, tree farm to peat bog to fermenter to still, those things are called stills, to biofuel. And the plan is to burn this biofuel in a biogenerator, create our EU. You get 16 EU per tick when you burn a bucket of biofuel, and you get 32,000 EU total. So, and this is coming in at a rate of, I looked at it, about a bucket every. It's about a bucket every 200-ish seconds, and the generator will actually burn a bucket of this in 100 seconds, if I'm correct, at 32,000 EU, at 16 EU per tick. So that's a little bit unfortunate, because ticks are 1/20 seconds, so that's how that comes out. So currently right now I have no generator set up yet, just because I've been working on the whole flow, but the idea is to get biogenerators and use this, and then that'll give me enough electricity to get my solar panel production off the ground, because those are fully renewable. But it was kind of a really fun project to set up this huge chain of events, which basically comes down to one output, and it's I don't have to do anything, it just works, which is pretty cool. So it was kind of a fun challenge. I was watching Etho's Let's Play, and he was saying he was going to do biofuels, so I was like, oh, I'll give that a shot as well, and it worked out great. I recently watched another one of his videos where he looks like his system basically converts biomass into lava, or he uses biomass to use for MJ, the green stuff biomass. He uses that to basically make lava, and uses lava in a geothermal, which is another way to do it. But I kind of wanted to do a full biofuel system, so I guess I'll go into how this stuff actually is hooked up, which is there's some Red Power 2 stuff in here, which is super handy and super interesting. So, starting with the peat bog, these things. So this is the Red Power 2's version of power. It's just a solar panel and a battery box, and this is not too hard to get. You basically just need to make silicon, which is sand and coal. You make that, and then you use the blue alloy, which is made from this stuff called nickelite, which you can mine fairly easily. So this was not hard to get. And then these things are called sorting machines, and this is what makes the magic happen with this. So here we got a chest, which this is the classic peat bog, and down there the turberry, which mines the peat. That all this stuff basically feeds, and the ash from the peat engine feeds into this chest. And so this sorting machine says, it's got all these configurable slots, and you can give each slot a color. And there's several different modes here, which I'll probably go through in a later video. But basically, this mode right now, it just tries to send anything it can all the time. So as soon as one ash shows up in this chest, it's going to shove it out and give it the purple color. one peat shows up, it's going to shove it out and give it the red color. And so these are called tubes, pneumatic tubes, or the red power version of pipes, essentially, buildcraft pipes. So if something gets shoved out here, so say I took one of these peat, it pumps it out and gives it the red color. And now it's going to follow this tube to the nearest available inventory that satisfies its requirements. So the closest inventory that it could go into was this peat-fired engine, because I've painted this pipe red, and you can use these things called, they're paint brushes basically. You paint pipes, and it kind of limits the colors that can go into them. So that peat left, and the decision was made as it left where it was going to try to go, as it kind of pre-calculates. And so the peat left colored red. The closest inventory that was valid was this peat-fired engine. This inventory is closer, but it's green, so it couldn't go in there. Closest valid inventory was a peat-fired engine, went in back into there. So that's like the peat supply loop for this system. And if that's full, if that inventory was full, that peat will actually, this one's going to go in, but the next one is going to bounce back and head out and to the next stage of the system. And there's other peat-fired engines farther down the supply chain that are all colored red. So any peat that leaves here will end up in a peat-fired engine, and if they're all full, it'll go to like an overflow, the overflow chest at the end. So that's the peat. And then this sorting machine is in a different mode, and it handles the dirt. So this mode is basically like, I need to satisfy this 8 dirt, and then this border here, it'll send that out as purple, then it'll move the border over to the green row, and it won't continue until it sends 4 dirt that are green. So here's 6. If I threw 2 dirt in here, it says, hey, there's 8 dirt. It's going to shove that out as purple. The next, and the mode has changed now to 4. If I put 4 dirt in here, boom, shoves them out as green, and the closest green inventory is the peat bog's supply chain here itself. So it goes back to there. So it kind of bounces between giving this guy over the tree farm 8 dirt and itself 4 dirt. And that's just the number I've come up with that seems to work best for like self-sustaining the whole system. I might need to tweak that if, for example, too much dirt is getting to the peat bog and not enough dirt is getting to the tree farm, or vice versa. That's just my number I've come up with that seems to work for now. The idea being that this thing takes 4 dirt to make bog earth, while the other thing needs 8 dirt to use up to make a compost, or sorry, a humus out of compost. So the next and final part of the peat bog system is actually creating the bog earth, renewing the bog earth. So this is kind of interesting. It's got, basically consists of a chest to buffer the items, an auto crafting table to craft the items, and then since one of those items is a water bucket, it adds some complexity, and we actually have to refill the bucket. So how this works is I've got a chest and this red power item called a filter, and then the liquid transposer, and below that liquid transposer there's a aqueous accumulator, which is like an infinite water source, and it just always keeps this full, but I've kind of buried that under there so it's out of the way. But what this does is anytime an empty bucket shows up in here, this is another red power item. It's a timer. It basically spins around and you can configure it. It has a GUI. I don't want to open it right now because it tends to crash my game sometimes if I open it from above, it seems like. But basically it ticks around, and I've set it for 30 seconds just so it doesn't, there's no lag and everything. It doesn't need to run that often anyway. So anytime this guy receives a redstone signal from this timer, it's going to suck one, there, it just did it. So it sucked the empty bucket out, put it into the liquid transposer, which filled it up, popped it out the side, and our full bucket's coming back around. And it's going to end up back in here. So that's basically how the bog earth system works. Is it receives enough sand and dirt, sand from the tree farm down the road, dirt from itself, and the buckets here and there just loop around. So as soon as this crafts one, the empty bucket comes back in here, goes through the system after 30 seconds, and ends up full here again. So And 30 seconds is pretty good number because there's not that much sand coming in here usually. There's a bunch extra right now actually, which is weird. It's because during nighttime no trees grow, and so this kind of gets more sand. There's kind of like a weird flux that happens, so I still need to tune the system a little bit, but 4 and 8 seems to be the number to hit. Anyway, and as you can see, like it's not half, it's like maybe 30% full, which is normal. Like the objective is not to create peat, it's to just change sand to dirt. Anyway, next stage of the system, and there goes some peat. The tree farm, and there's a lot of stuff going on in here, and I spent a lot of time compacting this down, so and I filled in blocks where there's no pipes, so it's kind of more clean. But I'll explain how this works now. So the purple items that come in all go into there it is, this chest. And what that chest does is it's buffering compost, ash, and dirt for these 2 crafting tables. So we've got humus and compost. And so I've been playing around with this, and since they're both hooked up to the same chest, the idea is that it makes humus first. So when there's enough dirt in here, it's going to pull a compost and the dirt, make the humus. Humus gets pumped out here into the bottom of the arboretum. It has to be the bottom, or else sand from the arboretum will get ejected into the... See, it comes out the sides. If I fed this into the sides, sand would occasionally come through, and that kind of clogs everything up. So it's important that it be the bottom. So humus comes out and into the arboretum. To make the humus, we need compost, and that's where this one comes in. It takes 1 dirt, 4 ash, makes the compost. Compost gets sucked out the bottom, back up here, back around behind, into the chest, and it ends up right there. And then this crafting table makes the humus. Now the problem I had here with this section was I had this crafting compost before and this crafting humus. However, it seemed like when there was a lot of dirt in here, the rightmost table would suck it all away. So when this was set up to do the compost, if I put a 16 stack of dirt in here and there was enough ash, it would basically deplete the ash and dirt, making compost. And I ended up with a ton of compost, and I still have surplus from when that happened. So I needed the compost to be used. Basically, humus had to be the priority here. So I've swapped it around, and it seems like it will now. It always basically does the right-hand thing first on the chest in this configuration. So I just guessed because, you know, in Minecraft things are weird like that, where based on what side stuff was on, it takes priority. So that's just my experimentally. The result I got experimentally, and it seems to be holding up okay. The humus supply is working. When dirt comes in the 8-stack chunks, depletes the compost. I was like, I just dropped it in, and you saw it depleted the compost first. Before it could have used up all that ash, but it did the compost. So that's that. This little mini system here is basically taking dirt, ash, and compost, making humus. That's the end result. So we've got the humus in the arboretum. The saplings are full. And now here's another sorting machine. So the actual tree farm setup, and it's just kind of the next step in this. Arboretum and logger. Logger is right there. Arboretum's here, all powered by a peat engine, which pushes ash into this chest so we can use it for compost. I'm just going to turn off particles so that weather doesn't make a sound, I hope. I'll just stand here. Anyway, so I've got the arboretum and logger, and what they're doing is pumping all their items into this buffer, which is basically just a red powered chest where every side goes into a different line here, so stuff can't say it fills up with too many logs from the side here, from the logger. That'll only ever clog up one of these rows, so all the other things will have no problems there. So it's just kind of just in case stuff gets clogged up. So yeah, the saplings and apples come out the top of the logger. Apples go here. Saplings go here into the buffer. Logs obviously come out here. Now, the squeezer is here, and that basically takes any apples it finds. They come through this diamond pipe. Apples go to the red side, which is fitting, into the squeezer. Squeezer says, squeeze this apple. And the cool thing about apples, which is perfect for this system, apple, is what can we use them for? We can make apple juice, which is not used here, but mulch. And that's a 40% chance of making a mulch. And so every time we get an apple, we have a 40% chance of making mulch. And what we need mulch for is the fermenter. We need it in this slot here. And I'll get to that in a minute, but basically it's a perfect byproduct of the tree farm is we get, our outputs are essentially wood, saplings, and mulch, and apple juice, which I'm currently not using, and I'm storing in this giant tank. There's actually quite a bit there. So yeah, that creates our saplings and our mulch. They hit the sorting machine. Saplings are blue, and so saplings get pumped out of the sorting machine back into the arboretum. Now, this is obviously full, so if this is full, the saplings come up here, they hit the arboretum, they bounce back. Oh, and it's going to happen right now. Oh, no, that one's going to fill it, unfortunately. Maybe another one will happen while I'm talking. But basically, the saplings are going to come out here, hit the arboretum, it's full. They're going to bounce back, go down this tube. The only way for them to go is out here, because back down this road, there's no valid blue inventories, and there's no valid inventories that have no color down that road. So they have to go out here. And this is basically, this does nothing except artificially lengthen the pipe, so it's called a restriction pipe, and it basically says to Red Power, like, treat this section as if it's 5,000 blocks long, which means everything over here will basically be deprioritized from everything here. So there goes some wood. So anyway, the saplings will come into the arboretum. If it's full, they bounce back and head out here, which is where the fun starts to happen. And they hit this chest. And so I've got a ton of wood. This has been running for quite a while now. This chest was actually filled with 64 stacks of wood. I recently emptied it. So I haven't found a use for the wood yet. I'll probably use it in Stirling engines for powering a massive array of them for an assembly table or something. Haven't figured it out yet, but anyway, I was talking about saplings. So there we go. Sapling comes in, hits this chest. Now, these things here are called managers, and they're basically the Tech 3 sorting machine in Red Power, and they're pretty advanced. So basically, what a manager does is it manages the inventory that it's attached to. So the back here is attached to this chest, and this manager says, I have saplings, wood, mulch, and peat. And this mode tells it to not just keep one of each of these, but keep as many of these as it can. So the other mode here is like a single, or it's like a precision mode, where if I had like a 10 stack of saplings, it would try to keep 10 in there. But this mode is appropriate for what I'm doing, because I want to keep as many of each of these things as I can. And it's priority 0, and that's kind of important. I'll get to that in a sec. So the fermenter has technically several inventories, but it has the top inventory, which is saplings, and bottom inventory, which is mulch, and obviously the water, which is easy, just pumping that in, and the output, biomass, which I'm pumping out there. So fortunately, you need 2 managers for this, kind of the only way to do it. But basically, what this is saying here is, this one's in the precision mode. It's saying, I want to keep 2 saplings in this inventory at all times. No matter what, I want 2 saplings in there. And it'll ask other managers in the system for saplings if that gets low. So here's, yeah, it just filled it up. So, and the extras bounced back. So what this is doing is, anytime there's not enough saplings in here, if I remove them, the light went off and it said, I need saplings. That manager had saplings. It fed them here. It received them. And now its light came on, meaning my condition of having 2 saplings in my inventory is satisfied. So it's got 2 saplings, it's happy, and it's done its job. So the important thing here is it's priority 1, which means it's higher than that other one. So it has the right to pull items from it. So that's how it's able to keep the 2 saplings here, by drawing from that manager's supply. Next, the bottom inventory, same exact thing, except with mulch. So it's saying always keep 2 mulch in here. If you don't have 2 mulch, give me mulch. And the reason more comes out than really is needed is because it doesn't know it has enough until they get there, which is, I mean, I think this could be done a little bit better, where you're like, you know, I've got 2 mulch. Oh, did it send one out? Yeah, it did, because I put 3. It's like, you know, I've got 2 mulch, or 1 mulch. I just need 1, but it does it in its own way, which is fine, and they just bounce back into the old manager, and nothing bad happens. But so basically, these 2 managers always, and this is also priority 1, they always ask that manager for either saplings or mulch, and it keeps this fermenter always filled with at least 2. And the reason I picked 2 is because when this meter depletes, it uses up another sapling. If I just had 1 in here and it used up that sapling, potentially that next sapling might not get here in time if this tube was longer, so there could be wasted time. I just picked 2. 1 would probably work, but I like having that. I don't like having a risk of missing any ticks of power on that, because power can actually build up in this and explode these wires. Yeah, so that's the fermenter, and the water is just an aqueous accumulator, and it's in the mode where if there's 2 adjoining water sources, it'll fill up like extremely fast. Like this entire thing fills up in like 2 seconds once you put it down, as long as there's 2 adjoining water sources. 1 won't work. It has to be 2, and they have to be on these faces. They can't be below it. I wanted to do it below so it could kind of hide it. Wouldn't work. It has to be beside it. So that's the fermenter, and that's all the managers I have. And this is just another solar panel feeding my sorting machine here and all these managers, and it never gets depleted. Like apparently I think I can have 7 or 8 of these before it started being an issue, and it actually only uses power when stuff gets moved around, and this is a very pretty low speed system, so there's no problem here with the batteries. Okay, so next section. What do we do with the biomass? Well, it gets pumped out. Obviously, you can see it going here into the iron tank. And this is a railcraft thing where you basically make these blocks, put them around in this formation, and once you put the last block in, you can right-click it and make it. It's a tank, same as like a coke oven or blast furnace. But there's these gauge blocks which let you see inside, so you can actually kind of see the liquid in there. Kind of, yeah. And then these blocks here, which are valve blocks, which let pipes attach. And you have to put those in or else you can't use the tank. So this holds the biomass as like a temporary buffer, because say the still is shut down, I don't want biomass to build up and get wasted. So I just threw that in as a buffer. And next stage, the stills, which they take biomass, burn it up, or do whatever they do, ferment it or whatever, and make biomass or biofuel, and you can see it ticking out there. And that's the orange stuff, and that's the good stuff. That's the liquid gold. That's what we need. And I've stored up quite a bit here. So, and these are really simple. You just give them power, feed in biomass, and they pump biofuel back out. And that's the entire system. Oh, and that's actually, it's filling up and it's glitching out, I guess, because there's a very slight amount. Oh, there we go. That's because I'm moving. Anyway, how I power this. Up until today, I was actually powering this stuff off a biogas engine, which was using up the green biomass, but I didn't feel like that was, that wasn't so efficient, because, I don't want to use up my own product, first of all. Second of all, I could use peat, because I've got so much peat that was just a surplus, and I wasn't burning it. So, as you can see, here's a bunch of peat engines. They're on the red line, which is the peat line from the sorting machine way back there. So the peat all shows up here if the other peat engines were full, and as you can see, there's 63, 63, 55, 46, 40. So yeah, the peat gets to this guy first, and so it goes down the line. And the reason they're not completely full right now is the peat farm is a bit slower, and everything's gonna kind of reach equilibrium, I think, because right now there's so many peat engines burning. they produce all this ash, and up until now I had these things misconfigured rather, so the ash was getting like a surplus of compost was being created instead of a surplus of humus. So that's all going to work itself out now, and the peat production should pick up again. But anyway, this is each one of these is 1 megajoule Minecraft joule per tick. There's 5, so 5 MJ per tick. Each one of these machines technically can accept up to 5 MJ per tick, so they're not running at full capacity, but this seems to be a good speed so that I never run out of saplings, or rather I do run out. I stay very close to like 5 or 6 extra saplings, which seems to be really optimal, because the problem here is if I run out of saplings and this thing isn't drawing power, and then I run out of biomass and these things aren't drawing power, this MJ in these pipes will kind of build into a giant brick inside the pipe, and after a while it just explodes. And I've had it explode several times on me when I had my biogas engine over here, and it doesn't seem to damage anything around it. Either I was just lucky or it doesn't, but it makes a giant explosion like a creeper explosion, and blows the pipe away, and then your whole system, whatever's going down there, just doesn't obviously receive any power until you fix it, which is annoying. So I like having a nice buffer of saplings, because this thing will always use up the saplings, and I won't have that problem of power overload. The final thing, which is actually, I don't know if this is luck or if they designed it like this, but mulch. So it has a 40% chance of dropping from an apple, and apples have a very low chance of dropping at all. So typically, you know, I get 1 or 2 apples every so often. They go through the squeezer. Oh, there's one right now. That's actually pretty lucky. So apple goes through the squeezer, and it has a 40% chance of creating mulch. So it won't even be all the time. So it's pretty low chance that you get a mulch out of a sapling. But it just so happens that it seems to be fine, where with 1 fermenter running at whatever, you know, 5/3 MJ per tick, this mulch seems sustained. So I've been running this for several like real days by now, off and on as I've been playing, and I've never had a problem where my mulch fully ran out, which has been really nice, because if it did, then I would have to figure out a way to basically output extra compost, run it through the sorting machine, and kind of distribute compost evenly between the humus production and the fermenter, because you could also use compost here. But I mean, with the apples, it's been really nice where it just works, and the output, you know, makes it through. The mulch comes out, so I haven't had a problem yet. If it does jam up, where there's no mulch, it'll actually jam up for quite a while, because it would take a while for one to be generated. But you can kind of see, like, there's this much mulch to this much wood, so that's kind of your ratio. It's quite low. I mean, obviously it's been being used, so maybe this is like a 64 mulch to this much wood. It's pretty low, but it seems to work fine for my use. So that's the whole system, and my next task, I'm probably going to hook this up to some biogenerators to actually get EU, which was my original goal, and I kind of got sidetracked on this giant goose chase of how do I sustain the system without having to give it any extra materials. But I think I've got it now, so that's the system. Basically, got a tree farm, sustain itself using a peat bog, and then pump that all through a fermenter and into a couple stills, and you get biofuel. So that's my system. Fully sustainable, doesn't run out of its own necessary materials. We've got a lot of sand here. There's a lot of dirt waiting here. So that's all going to turn back into bog earth. I think I need to tweak these numbers. I think I need to give myself... I think I should do an even split here, because I'm really not getting enough dirt. Obviously there's a surplus of sand. That shouldn't happen, because sand is 1 sand per tree. So anyway, that's the system, and hopefully that's helpful to people trying to make their own biofuel systems. I'm not sure if making biofuel is more efficient than making lava from using straight up biomass to create MJ, but who knows. I need to do some, it's probably spreadsheet fun to figure that out, but it's kind of just fun to have this system and just watch it work, because it culminates to this one thing from so many inputs, and it's all self-sustained, and fairly proud of that design. And what I'm most proud of actually is how compact I managed to get most of this stuff. Like, there's a lot going on in here, and it's all like windy, and I've had to use sandstone pipes a lot so enough stuff doesn't link up. I've got stone pipes next to cobble pipes. It's pretty compact, and I'm pretty happy with this, and I managed to fill everything in so it's a nice even floor. Everything's running, nothing jams, nothing explodes, there's no risk of any of this stuff exploding. So yeah, pretty happy with this system. But I've been talking for a while now, so I think that's it. I'll be back again next time with probably an episode about, maybe I'll just record myself doing a time-lapse of building this building up or something, because this is fairly mediocre right now. I had envisioned like a giant sort of warehouse type looking thing made out of the redwoods, but I don't know if it fits in this biome. I might just smelt up a whole bunch of this brick and make a big brick factory or something. Who knows? But anyway, that's it for now, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.